Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Sister Sister, a podcast for spiritual baddies. We are your hosts, El and Amaya, and today we will be talking about social justice advocacy and in witchcraft.
Hey guys. We just really said two hard hitters right in a row. You're
We
welcome.
said back to back with love, of course. So, El, do you want to dive right into it?
Yeah, so we kind of want to start this off by people will say, especially surrounding the most recent election, was a lot of discourse on social media about witchcraft isn't political. Witchcraft is inherently political, even though it does not follow political ideology in and of itself. So let's explain. Regardless of what witchcraft path you follow, aside from Wicca, but that discussion has already been had in season 2, go listen to the dark history of Wicca. Um, we're not going into that again.
We
If you
judge you if you follow, by the way. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but we're gonna judge you if you follow that.
So, if you review the roots of practices, you're going to find links to spells that were used to fight against oppression, no matter if it's folk magic in any like European country, if you are looking into indigenous practices, if you're looking into Latin magic, you're looking into African magic, whatever it is, there is going to be a history of using witchcraft to fight against oppression. When the burning times happened across Europe and then the Salem witch trials, among other witch trials within the United States in like the 1600s, 1500s era, for those two different times, there was one specific link, and they weren't burning witches or people who were accused of witchcraft. And they can all tell you that it was hysteria in Salem because of this fungus and whatnot on the potatoes. But in reality, they were burning women and men who defended said women. Witchcraft has always and will always be used to fight back from oppression. It is a place that is found by people who have felt like outcasts their entire life. If you've ever read Healing the Witch Wound, which is an okay book, there's some really good stuff in it, and there's some really kind of weird stuff in it. I'm not going to get too much into that, but there is the discussion of feeling when you declaim the word witch, the oppression that others have felt. That is the common thing that most of us find within ourselves, is that there is a sense of oppression, whether it is because of race, your ethnic background, whether it's because of your identity, whether that is gender identity, sexual identity, whether it's because you are part of the disabled community. There is something that you feel like you need to fight against that connects you to this path.
So, let's get right into the history of activism in witchcraft from the village witch. Historically marginalized and demonized, witches identify with the struggle for autonomy, self-expression, and empowerment in a world that frequently seeks to suppress these ideals. During the history of the witch trials, both here and abroad, the targets of witch hunts had been the same things in common: lower socioeconomic status, healers, those who challenged societal norms of being married, having children, going to church, and those who were otherwise on the outskirts of society for various reasons. Witch hunts were a way to silence these differences and ensure that citizens toed the line. Today, the practice of witchcraft extends beyond that of a magical path and continues to challenge prevailing norms, advocate for social justice, and promote ecological awareness. They are in full resistance of both the norms and the harm they cause. Witches identify deeply with the history and persecution of those societies deemed dangerous, and activism today is simply just another way to stand in opposition and to reclaim individuality and power that was once taken away or hidden in the proverbial broom closet by society. It's a public way to dissent and defend those who are now what who endured. the trials so long ago are now enduring.
So let's kind of look at the perspective of the village witch for today's landscape for social justice advocacy in witchcraft. At the very core of most practitioners of the magical path is an alignment with equality, social justice, environmental preservation, and balance. It's a no brainer then. The witches gravitate towards political activism. Witches not only want to fight for what is right, but believe it is our solemn duty to do so. It is a part of many traditions and their code of ethics. It is a part of the giving back that many traditions are involved with. It is our right and our responsibility. This is things like returning things to the earth, making sure that you are, thanking herbs and crystals that you use, all of those little things that you do every day as a witch. Indeed, one of the reasons that witchcraft is the fastest growing religion, it's not really a religion, but for the sake of explaining it to people who don't get it, in this country, specifically America, is because it offers asylum from harmful organized religions, political or societal discrimination, and instead offers acceptance and a feeling of belonging. It offers a feeling of community and not fighting alone. Many traditions today have also adopted more accepting language with variations even to the more traditional male/female aspects of the path. It offers inclusivity. As such, gatherings and rituals offer support and a place to coordinate efforts, both magical and mundane, to affect social change. So, the next thing that we're going to kind of look at is Tara Burton specifically had kind of done some deep diving into witchcraft back in like 2019 whenever everything was starting to kind of blow up on TikTok, and her experience with the Catlin books in Brooklyn. And she had attended a new moon ritual and kind of talks about that. She was born and raised Episcopalian, and as always everything will be linked, so go ahead, Amaya.
So, here she writes, but at Catland, one can also buy a zine about the ethics of cursing by Dakota Stalkfleet, aka Dakota Brachial. I hope I said that right. The store's other co-owner, that makes clear that curses may be used as the last resort of those without access to the criminal justice system. In other words, magic may be used to seek justice or accountability or plain influence when the mainstream has failed or marginalized the practitioner. Folk magic is what arms the poor, the downtrodden, and the outcast. Stockfleet writes, how could anyone fault me for cursing my rapist? How could anyone, R word, pissed? How could anyone blame me, let alone shame me, for seeking to be the arbiter of my own justice by cursing that evil maid? According to Stockfeet, contemporary witch culture is a reflection of wider transitions in feminism. While the New Age movement of the 1960s and 70s tended to be largely white and geared toward a celebration of the divine feminism and divine feminine, contemporary witchcraft is more concerned with tearing down gender divisions altogether. To the extent that female is celebrated at all, it is a force to be wielded against the powers that be. Kristen J. Sully, author of Witches, Sluts, Feminists, Conjuring the Sex Positive, told The Guardian 2017, to me, the primal impulse behind each of these contested identities is self-sovereignty. Witches, sluts, and feminists embody the potential for self-directed feminine power and sexual and intellectual freedom. If that sounds dark, it's meant to be. Insisting on positivity and light is for those who want to keep up the barriers of class and racial privilege. The demand for constant love and light and to do no harm, Stalkfleet writes, is nothing more than the treacherous, vile manifestations of misogyny, racism, specifically anti-Blackness, classism, transphobia, and various other forms of oppression in the spiritual realm. Do not fall for it.
So, as we talked about in the dark history of Wicca and our cultural appropriation episodes very much to align with what was said there. So, social justice and witchcraft on social media, specifically TikTok, has kind of become where witches go to share information and come together as a community, whether it's for wow, whether it's for hexing political figures, spell work to protect marginalized groups, or raising funds and awareness for certain marginalized groups. Social media has proved just how political witchcraft is. And if you were in the TikTok space for this past election cycle, specifically the witch talk space, you witnessed a lot of organizing of witches for a lot of different reasons whenever it came to topics like political figures and making sure that marginalized communities are protected. Obviously, there is only so much that a group of witches can do. One TikTok that I want to talk about, and I will have to insert a note afterwards of what his username is now, but I remember I had sent it to Amaya, and it was this man saying, "Where am I going whenever everything hits the fan? With the witches. Where? With the witches." Which he later comes and talks about, the fact that he does not want the New Age spiritualists claiming him that are part of that whole like Wicca movement thing, because he himself is a person of color and was like, nah, you people, not the vibe. But I think that that video alone kind of shows how much more accepted this idea of witchcraft has become for a lot of people. A lot of people who were not connected to ancestral roots, whether they have indigenous Native American roots, you having Puerto Rican roots, Amaya, a lot of people aren't connected to those things. And witchcraft itself can help you to learn more about your own history and kind of what your ancestors would have been doing back then. I also have Celtic paganism roots in my family, which I found. And I think that's another reason that we're kind of seeing this flock of people towards it. Do you have anything you want to add about political awareness on social media with it?
As I was reading the blurb that I was reading, I just kept thinking, wow, this is so funny that I'm reading this, especially post-election and especially post-inauguration day, because obviously right now we are recording post-inauguration day, but it feels so funny. Like this article was posted when, like a decade ago, 2 decades ago, and this author, Stockfleet,
This
when did she
was 2019.
like only
2 years.
6 years ago, and it feels like we're repeating history already. And granted, at that time, Trump was halfway into his first presidency term.
A little over halfway.
Yeah. So it feels kind of like to me history is repeating itself. And although some histories don't repeat themselves exactly, they definitely tend to take this same shape. So I just find it really interesting, like, especially now, a lot of this talk is prepare yourself, have a plan for when crap goes sideways, essentially, just like being prepared and, just having a plan B. And I feel like for us, especially as women of color and being a part of different marginalized groups, it's scary to say the least. Like, I have no other words than to say it's scary. And while most of my family, specifically on my dad's side, not that I'm shaming them in any way, shape, or form, I'm just keeping it real. They don't see things the way I see things, and they'll never understand. But at this point, I don't expect them to. What I do have is a really great support group of friends and my mom, my boyfriend, they understand, like, they know, like, you know, things could go awry and really fast.
Well, and one of the things too that so many people asked me after this election cycle was my business, one, has a pride collection every year. I am a part of the LGBTQ plus community. And I also am on the Everywhere is Queer map, which is a map that was created by a queer person. I don't remember if they're also a business owner or not, but basically for businesses to identify themselves as safe spaces in communities. And specifically in my area, I am the only business on that map. Now, that doesn't mean that like there aren't any other safe spaces in my town, but not enough for people to recognize that they should be putting themselves on this platform for people. And I got a lot of questions post election of, are you going to reach out to them and take yourself off that map? And I kind of have come to the conclusion that if we're going down, we're going down together. Because if that map is the reason that I end up in some sort of crazy position and not the fact that I own a metaphysical store, then, well, so be it. Because I am a part of a lot of groups that are not going to have a great time if things go sideways. Also, being a person who has a disability, that is not going to be great. But I think that what we're seeing now is kind of the same energy as that, 2019 article. And around that time, I don't know if you remember this, Amaya, if you were on TikTok back then, that was like right whenever I had joined. People were hexing like the incoming Supreme Court justices that were being nominated and things like that. And I think that it seemed so dystopian then, and now we're back to it. And it's like, what are we going to do this time? How are we going to stand up with witchcraft and in our power? And it's definitely going to be a lot, but you kind of have to fight for what you believe in. And as witchy people, I don't think that we scare easily, personally. And I also think that we have been a part of oppressed groups for the majority or the entirety of our lives, that this is nothing new. It's just another hurdle to get through, as much as it could go awfully. We have to kind of stand together in what we believe in and do what we can to help people, because that's what's important, is making sure that everyone else is safe along with yourself.
Yeah, I think that despite the circumstances that we're in, the only way is forward. And I mean, granted, things are a lot scarier now because our president now has more power to do things and has threatened, well, not him, but his, colleague, has threatened Congress to make all their bills pass or money will be taken from them. It goes to show you how our current government is set up and that money is the only motivation, and that shouldn't be it. But this is what the people voted for, so I mean, it's kind of out of our hands, right? Whether or not they actually voted for them, that's a whole TED Talk for another day, especially what was revealed yesterday on January 19th. Again, when we record this episode, please note we are in January, so yeah. But it seems to
Just
be revealed
uh,
that, there has been some cheating.
um, just remember, it is not your lesson to learn. If you're sitting here with us, I guarantee that it is not your lesson to learn. If you are listening to this or watching this on YouTube right now, it was not your lesson to learn, which is unfortunate. And as we have been talking about the astrology with March and the like to mid-April, it is intense. And
Super intense.
as we go through that period with the podcast and releasing episodes, I just want to remind everyone it is not your lesson to learn, because I don't know what's going to happen, but with the astrology, I feel like it's going to be pretty volatile in nature.
Yeah, just prepare yourself. I mean, honestly, this whole election cycle has been pretty volatile to begin with, but I just feel like things are going to be super exacerbated, like to an extreme that not even we expected to. So I think just have a plan, try to stay calm, and remember you can only control what's in your reach. What the outside world does, as long as it doesn't harm you, just let it go.
The only way out is through.
Yep. That's our little sprinkle nugget of advice today. Now, let's get right into tarot time.
Yeehaw. What's the collective need to spirit? You gotta stop. I have to ask the question. What does the collective need to know? Hmm. Very appropriate card for this episode. We have the Hierophant. The Hierophant, in and of itself, is about mentorship, about education, about learning, about discerning what is right for you. This can be on an educational level, going back to school, finding a mentor, that kind of thing. This can be in a spiritual level, finding a mentor to help guide you. This can be that you need to take the role of a mentor with your social justice advocacy and witchcraft. It really, in itself, this whole thing is what we have been talking about today. This whole card is all about what we've been discussing today, which is you got to trust the people that you can trust around you who are on the same level and wavelength as you. And it very much so is a card guiding you to educate yourself and to make sure others are educated. Whether you are the mentor or someone is mentoring you, education is at the forefront, and making sure that you keep your morals intact is at the forefront.
Interesting how that card came out after a little spiel. Let's get right into Astrology Almanac with L.
Today, the moon in Pisces will conjunct with Neptune in Pisces. Today's energy is focused on karmic retribution and figuring out how to release from the past. Be smart in how you go about this. Tomorrow, we have quite the lineup. First, Mercury will move into Pisces while still in retrograde alongside Venus, who is also now retrograding in Pisces. These two planets in the sign of Pisces are really honing in on karmic retribution. This is a time for major shifts in energy personally and for the entire world landscape. Be open to the lessons that are coming your way and remember that lessons on the world stage may not be yours to learn, so don't let them drain you. Mercury now in Pisces will also be conjuncting with Neptune in Pisces, focusing even more on how taxing this energy shift and karmic lessons will be. Make sure you are taking care of your mental health. Finally, for today specifically, there will be a solar eclipse in Aries. With Mercury and Venus just exiting the sign, this eclipse will heavily focus on you continuing on and what they brought to light, whether it's releasing old energy, making a plan for the future, or delving into connections or projects from the past. The eclipse is sure to throw us for a loop. Remember to take initiative and what your intuition is telling you is right. On the 30th, Neptune enters Aries. This huge transition in 2025 will urge you to take action in your spirituality and listen to your intuition. This may be difficult with Venus and Mercury retrogrades, but that energy is coming regardless, since Neptune will be in Aries until 2038. Rounding out this crazy week on April 1st, the moon in Taurus will conjunct with Uranus in Taurus. Something will most likely go wrong, but you have to be quick on your feet to solve the problem effectively. As I said,
Jesus Christ, that's a
the
lot going on.
astrology is volatile. The day this episode comes out, there are three major things happening.
And they're all in Pisces.
Mhm.
What is going on?
Yeah, sign of intuition and emotions.
Emotional damage. Emotional damage. That's what that sounds like. Ah, needless to say, hold on to your panties, guys. Because that's probably the only thing you guys will be able to hold on to at this point. I'm talking about myself too.
And it's not over.
Anyway, oh, I know it's not over.
It's not
Probably
over.
won't be over until the season's over at this point,
Yep.
if not more, if not longer. But with all that being said, again, take everything that we say with a little bit grain of salt. We do hope that during this time and all these energy transits and things happening, that it's not as volatile and maybe it's just on the world stage, but we're here for you if they are. So you can always reach out to us if there are any questions, concerns, if you just want to share. We're here for each other and we're going to create a little community with one another. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sister Sister. We thank you for watching and giggling along, talking about hard hitters and everything in between, gossiping, the whole nine. Make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram at ss.spiritualpodcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as like, comment, and share the video with your friends. And also be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you know when the next episode drops. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time and stay strong, besties.
Hi, guys.